Can you really go 25,000 miles on a single oil change like AMSOIL claims, or is that marketing hype that'll cost you an engine? I've analyzed dozens of used oil reports from customers running AMSOIL at extreme intervals, and what I found is going to surprise you. AMSOIL's extended drain capability is real, but there's a point where even the best oil starts breaking down, and if you cross that line, you're gambling with your engine. After over 20 years diagnosing oil-related failures, I'm going to show you exactly where AMSOIL holds up, where it starts failing, and how to know if you're pushing it too far. Let's get into the data. First, let's be clear about what AMSOIL actually claims. Their signature series oil is rated for 25,000 miles or 1 year in normal service and 15,000 miles or 1 year in severe service. It's a bold claim when most oils recommend 7,500 to 10,000 miles. So the question is, does the oil chemistry actually support those intervals, or is this just aggressive marketing? I'm going to show you real oil analysis data so you can see for yourself. Let's start with what makes extended drains possible in the first place. AMSOIL uses Group 4 FePAO synthetic base stocks with a robust additive package designed for longevity. The total base number, TBN, starts high, usually around 12 for signature series. TBN measures the oil's ability to neutralize combustion acids. As the oil ages, TBN drops. When it gets too low, the oil can't protect against corrosion anymore. AMSOIL's high starting TBN is specifically engineered to handle extended service. The antioxidants in AMSOIL are also formulated to resist thermal breakdown longer than conventional oils. Oxidation is what turns oil into sludge. The better the antioxidant package, the longer the oil stays clean. AMSOIL's chemistry here is legitimate. This isn't just marketing talk. So let's look at real-world data. I'm going to walk you through oil analysis reports I've reviewed from engines running AMSOIL at different intervals, and I'll show you exactly where the oil performs and where it starts hitting limits. At 7,500 miles, AMSOIL Signature Series 5W30 in a normal use Toyota Camry showed a TBN of around 9. Viscosity was stable at 30 weight. Iron wear metals were at 8 parts per million. Fuel dilution was less than 1%. The oil was barely broken in. At this interval, you're not even close to stressing the oil. AMSOIL is overkill here, but it's performing flawlessly. At 12,000 miles on the same vehicle, TBN dropped to around 7, still well above the danger zone, which is typically 2 or below. Viscosity remained in spec. Iron was at 12 parts per million, still excellent. No oxidation, no fuel contamination issues. The oil had plenty of life left. This is where AMSOIL starts showing its value compared to conventional oils that would already be oxidizing or losing TBN. At 15,000 miles, TBN was down to about 5. Viscosity was still holding. Iron climbed to 15 parts per million, which is normal wear accumulation over that distance. The oil was still doing its job. For severe service, this is AMSOIL's recommended limit, and the data supports it. You're approaching the edge, but you're not over it. Now here's where it gets interesting. At 20,000 miles, things start changing. TBN dropped to around 3. That's getting low. It's not critical yet, but you're in the yellow zone. Viscosity was still acceptable, but fuel dilution started creeping up, around 2 to 3% in some samples. Iron wear metals hit 18 to 22 parts per million depending on the engine. The oil was still functional, but margins were shrinking. This is where I'd start getting nervous. At 25,000 miles, AMSOIL's maximum claim for normal service, the data gets mixed, and this is critical. In ideal conditions, highway driving, maintained engine, no extreme temps, no towing, I've seen reports where TBN was still around 2.5 to 3, viscosity was in spec, and wear metals were acceptable. The oil made it. But those are best-case scenarios. In less ideal conditions, short trips, cold weather, city driving, I've seen 25,000-mile samples with TBN below 2, viscosity starting to shear out of grade, and wear metals climbing into the 25 to 30 parts per million range. That's where AMSOIL starts failing. Not catastrophically, but the oil is no longer providing optimal protection. You've crossed the line from extended drain into you're risking damage. Let me give you a specific example. I had a customer with a 2017 Ford F-150 with the 3.5 EcoBoost. He ran AMSOIL Signature Series 5W30 and pushed it to 25,000 miles because that's what the label said he could do. But his driving was 70% short trips, under 10 miles. lots of cold starts. When we pulled an oil sample at 25,000 miles, TBN was 1.8. Fuel dilution was 4%. The oil smelled like gas. Viscosity had sheared down. It was testing closer to a 20 weight than a 30 weight. We drained it, and the oil was dark brown, almost black. It wasn't sludge, but it was done. Here's what happened. Short trips never let the oil get hot enough to burn off fuel and moisture contamination. That diluted the oil and killed the additives faster. AMSOIL is designed to handle extended drains, but it's not magic. If your driving conditions accelerate contamination, the oil fails sooner, regardless of brand. Now let's talk about severe service, because this is where a lot of people get confused. AMSOIL defines severe service as frequent short trips, towing, extreme temperatures, dusty conditions, or stop-and-go traffic. If any of those apply to you, AMSOIL recommends 15,000 miles maximum, and the data backs that up. I reviewed oil samples from a Chevy Silverado 2500 with the 6.6 Duramax diesel that was towing a fifth-wheel camper regularly. The owner ran AMSOIL heavy-duty diesel 5W40 and changed it every 15,000 miles. At that interval, TBN was around 4, soot levels were elevated but acceptable, and wear metals were normal. The oil was handling severe service exactly as designed. But I also saw a sample from a similar truck where the owner pushed it to 20,000 miles while towing. TBN was below 2, soot was off the charts, the oil was thick and contaminated. That engine later developed injector issues, likely because the oil couldn't keep the fuel system clean. Pushing beyond 15,000 miles in severe service is where AMSOIL starts failing to protect. Here's another failure point people don't think about: oil consumption. If your engine burns or leaks oil and you're topping it off between changes, you're actually extending the life of the oil because you're adding fresh additives. But if your engine doesn't consume oil and you're running the same 5 quarts for 25,000 miles, every molecule of that oil is aging. There's no replenishment. The additives deplete faster. I've also seen issues with turbo engines. Turbos run extremely hot. Exhaust side temps can hit 1,400 degrees or more. Even though the oil itself doesn't see those temps directly, the heat radiates into the bearings. Over 20,000 to 25,000 miles heat damage. The oil was still liquid, but it wasn't protecting the turbo anymore. Cold weather is another breaking point. In extreme cold, below 0 Fahrenheit, even 0W oils thicken up. If you're doing repeated cold starts over a long interval, moisture accumulation becomes a problem. Water gets into the oil from combustion blowby and condensation. If the engine never gets hot enough to evaporate it, that moisture combines with combustion acids to form corrosive compounds. I've seen oil samples from Minnesota winters at 20,000 miles that had emulsified oil, milky, foamy, contaminated. AMSOIL couldn't handle that because the conditions didn't allow it to. So here's the reality. AMSOIL's extended drain capability is real up to a point. At 12,000 to 15,000 miles in normal to moderate service, the oil consistently performs well. The chemistry holds up, wear protection is solid, you're using the product as designed. At 20,000 miles, you're in the gray zone. Some engines and driving conditions will support it, others won't. You're gambling. At 25,000 miles, you're at the absolute limit and only under ideal conditions. Highway driving, warm climates, no towing, no short trips, well-maintained engine. Anything less than ideal and you're risking oil failure before you hit that interval. And if you're in severe service, towing, extreme temps, short trips, dusty conditions, 15,000 miles is the max, and even that requires monitoring. Push beyond it and you're asking for problems. Here's my professional advice. Just because AMSOIL says you can go 25,000 miles doesn't mean you should. Use oil analysis to know for sure. For $30, you can send a sample to Blackstone Labs or a similar service and get a report showing TBN, viscosity, wear metals, and contamination levels. That data tells you if your oil still has life or if you're pushing too hard. If you're not willing to do oil analysis, here's my rule. Cut AMSOIL's recommended interval in half for severe service. That means 7,500 miles instead of 15,000. For normal service, I'd go 12,000 to 15,000 max, not 25,000. You'll still get longer intervals than conventional oil, and you'll stay well within the safe zone. And here's the thing. Even if you're changing AMSOIL every 12,000 miles instead of 25,000, you're still getting value. The oil performs better during that interval than cheaper oils would. You're not wasting it by changing sooner. You're protecting your engine. The failure point for AMSOIL isn't the oil itself. It's people pushing the intervals too far without understanding their specific conditions. The oil is good, the claims are based on controlled testing. But real-world driving is messier than lab conditions. So here's the bottom line. AMSOIL's extended drain capability is real, but it has limits. At 12,000 to 15,000 miles, you're safe. At 20,000, you're in the gray zone. At 25,000, you're at the edge. And only ideal conditions will support it. Push beyond that, and you're failing the oil, not the other way around. What interval are you running on your oil changes, and what kind of driving do you do? Drop a comment with your vehicle and habits. I'll tell you if you're in the safe zone or if you're pushing too hard. And if this data just saved you from an expensive mistake, hit that like button. Next week, I'm tackling cold starts. Does AMSOIL actually survive winter better than the competition, or is that just marketing? I've got cold weather test data you need to see. If you're not subscribed, hit that button now, drop a comment. I respond to everyone. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.